Yeah, okay, time to live free. Plenty goals I'm achieving. Some real life topics and talking financial freedom. Mindset, soul and love, everything in between. This is Freedom Podcast. Tune in, live free. Hey, got my mindset right and I got the drive. Planning one day, no more job, no more 9 to 5. Love, money, mind. Love, money, mind. This is Freedom. Tune in, cause it's going down. Woo!
Hi, this is Anna, and welcome to another episode of your Freedom Podcast. In this episode, I interview Brereton Clarke. Brereton is a digital marketing specialist with a passion for helping small businesses grow online. He immigrated to Canada from the UK back in 2012 and landed in the dark rut of drug addiction and loneliness, but found light and got sober with the help of his now wife and dog. Brereton is now helping small business owners across North America and Europe scale by using the power of the internet. Listen in on Brereton sharing his struggles and journey to building a successful business and becoming sober. So, hi Brereton, I'm really excited to be interviewing you today.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
We've only met recently, actually. We've met on the new Clubhouse app that everyone's been addicted to. So it's great to have you on here. And from memory, we were in a room, weren't we, talking about, I think there was, because there's been a lot of rooms on the Clubhouse, all with millionaires and billionaires. And it was saying, look, you know, I think the title of the room was something about forget all the millionaire stuff. Are you mentally and spiritually okay? It was something around that.
Yeah, I think it was like when is enough money or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of different rooms on there, and the diversity in the content is so profound, and like I'm sure you've seen some quite dodgy ones in there too. So yeah.
But I think that's what I quite like, that it's not just all about business, even though there are some dodgy ones that I've avoided.
Yeah.
But I think that it kind of makes it a bit more interesting, because that's what humans are like, aren't they? There's all sorts of different topics.
Definitely.
But I know we were both in that room and we were both sharing your story. In fact, you managed to get, because sometimes there's so many speakers, you actually introduced me anyway, because we were messaging on Instagram as you shared your story. So,
Right.
so yeah, cheers for letting me get a word in.
No, you told me it was late, and I was like, oh, let's get Anna to bed. I figured it was like nearly 3 a.m. where you're from over there. So I was just like, let's try and get you introduced. So that's the one thing with it. You just got to see if you can cut people off sometimes, because everyone wants to get their word in, right? So
yeah.
But yeah,
your sort of story, because everyone was sharing stories in that room, and your story really interested me. One, because everybody else has got a US accent, so it was quite nice that I could hear that British accent in there, even though it wasn't 100% British. And also, I've done a lot of digital marketing, like on my whole business journey, so there was that as well. And then you shared, like, you know, your incredible story. And this podcast is all about sort of sharing our life journeys, really. And it all fueled from when I was in, like, I suppose, my darkest moments. You know, like sometimes you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you're thinking that you're the only one going through this. So when I kind of got out of it, I thought, wouldn't it be great to have a podcast that actually is sharing stories? So anyone that's listening to it that's in a bit of a rut, actually, if they hear it, they'll hear all these different stories, and it kind of like normalizes your own, because I have this theory that we're all a bit fucked up in our own way.
We definitely all are. There's no doubt in my mind about that. We all have our spots where we all turn maybe a little bit the wrong way around the roundabout sometimes.
Exactly. And so and actually everybody has had some kind of adversity. Just other people might have had more traumatic stories, but everybody, it's all relative, isn't it? No one's had a perfect life. So we focus on these 3 pillars, which has kind of like created equilibrium in my life, which is freedom in love, freedom in money, and freedom in mind. And obviously freedom in money is financial freedom. Freedom in mind it's Fred in your head, as I call it, that messes you up. And also freedom in love is all around looking after ourselves and self-care and just kind of giving love into the world, because sometimes I've listened on, in fact, on the Clubhouse, there's a lot of egos sometimes in some of the rooms.
Yeah, that's the one thing about being in business sometimes is people that's what I got in business to get away from that, but I found that in business it's a lot of people just put on it's imposter syndrome, right? It's like they're trying to
Yeah,
say they are something that they're not so that they can get to a spot. Like everyone lives by that fake it until you make it kind of thing, which is not the way that I see. I'm unapologetically me. If you don't like me, I don't want to work with you anyway. You know,
yeah,
how I
exactly.
that's how I see it. But yeah,
I
you do
think
find
sometimes that American culture as well, because there's a lot of US people. There's more different countries coming on now, I've noticed, but I think that is how the US guys are kind of. It's their culture, isn't it, to be
uh,
really super motivated, to kind of have this image of what they look like and how they're
yeah.
perceived and all that kind of stuff. So I've
I'll
actually
be
noticed a
honest.
lot.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you there. And so when I came over to Canada, I did really notice like the difference between the cultures between the UK and North American culture. Even though we like all speak the same language, I find that in the UK, if you do something wrong, you're going to get a slap for it. And without anyone saying anything to you, you're going to get a smack. Whereas over here, people will argue with you until that they've like decided that's their point and they've won the fight because everyone
Yeah.
just talks out of their ass so much. It's like, where in the UK, you've got to be able, I find that people actually like say, yeah, this is it. That's not going for everyone as well. I've just
No,
noticed it a
yeah.
little bit more over in this in their area. And like, I grew up in the army, right? So it was very much like, you didn't do it right, you got a slap. You know, my dad,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, my dad was a staff sergeant in the army, so for 22 years, and yeah, I just remember him giving me a right smacking if I didn't do it right or something, and yeah, he'd show me why, but he wouldn't let me get away with it, and he kept me accountable, which I find is like the main thing I do. But
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think there are, it is, it's weird. We have the same language. I always know when my boys have been doing too much gaming because they'll say something like, "Oh, mum, are you going to put the garbage out?" I'm like, "It's rubbish in this country." Do you know what I mean? They start talking all these strange words and different ways. But yeah, I noticed that in the Clubhouse app. But what was interesting about you is I thought you had a really inspiring story. That's why I invited you on here, because you've kind of traveled around, you've been in different places. It sounded like you'd had a few challenges growing up with your
oh
mom and stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but you're now like running a successful business, and obviously there's that alignment with the whole digital world as well. So, how did you
Mhm.
end up actually in Canada? I don't think you shared that part on the.
So actually, it was at Butlins. I was. That's how it all started. My family were on a. So go back a little bit. My dad remarried after my parents split. To my current stepmom. And then they had another.
When did they split up? When did quite young, weren't you?
Yeah, I wasn't even 2 years old. My mum kind of just like my dad was away at war and like off and about bases and so on. I was looked after by my mum most of the time, but she bought a plane ticket and just buggered off, left me and my sister in the house, and that was it. That's all the
Right, okay.
story I know. My dad had the receipt for the plane ticket. My mum will deny it forever. She is, but she's a little bit loopy. Got a couple screws loose, I would say. And she knows I know this. I'm not going to lie
Mm,
for her, because,
yeah,
but again, all of the dark stuff that she put me through definitely made me into the man that I am, because it was every couple of weeks I'd travel back to go see my mum, and it would be like an argument or a beating or something every weekend, and it was yeah, it's never fun. Never fun to deal with it. But as
So
much as like,
you lived with your dad and your I suppose your dad was probably away quite a bit as well, wasn't
yeah. So actually, when my mum left, I had a nanny. I did. Her name was Dominica, and she was an awesome lady. Smoked like a chimney, but she was awesome. And then my dad actually met my current stepmom through OK Magazine back in the day
he?
when it used to be like write your love letters and so on.
Love it.
Yeah, so my dad actually brought my stepmom over to Germany, and then their relationship started. Stepmom had two sons already with her previous marriage as well.
Yeah.
And then I had a half sister as well. So, and then my stepmom and my dad had another child. Fast forward a few years, go on with what's going on with my mum and whatnot, which is, yeah, my mum's a heavy drug addict, alcoholic, was never the role model that you needed. I remember walking into the living room and seeing piles of cocaine, and
Yeah.
yeah, just not what I wanted to be around. But as a child, you don't really realize that. You just like see it, and yeah. But I always got projected on, like, because I was technically only my half sister wasn't my dad's. Her dad died before
Right. I say.
yeah. So
So you
from
were like
there,
the only child for your mum, really?
yeah, really. And I was like, well, for my dad, only child from my dad.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Very bad. Like that.
And yeah, it was always projected on, like, don't be like your mother, don't be like your mother, don't be like your mother, you know. And it was always like that growing up as a kid. And yeah, and then when I got to that age, when drugs started to become more available as you grow up and everything, I was like, why is this so bad? You know, and I got into it, and yeah, it really went down a dark hole. But I've kind of missed a whole spot here. Yeah, but how we came to Canada, we were at Butlins, and my dad was woken up by my 1-year-old sister at the time, and never buys a newspaper. He went and got the newspaper and started reading the job section, which he never does, right? And he saw mechanics needed in Canada, and he just retired from the army, and he started his own business. But he was,
Okay.
yeah, he was a tree surgeon back in Ipswich, and the community warden as well. And yeah, his body was pretty beat up. He had 2 kneecaps replaced. He couldn't lift his shoulder more than 45 degrees. But he was a tough man, very, very tough man. He was. So he just wouldn't stop. And then he saw this opportunity and applied for it, and he got it. And we all came over here. Well, me and my younger siblings, my 2 older siblings, were already in university by this time, so they decided to stay in the UK. They did.
How long ago was this then? How long have you been in Canada?
So I've been in Canada since August 20th of 2012. I've landed about 1:30 p.m. Mountain time. I remember.
Remember that.
Yeah, yeah, the whole plane flight, everything. I won't ever forget it. If anyone listening to this ever comes to Canada, make sure you're ready to pay taxes on top of what you actually pay. The UK, we go ahead and add the taxes in beforehand. And I actually remember getting off the plane starving, trying to run to the shop and buy a sandwich. It said $5. I'm like, yeah, I got $5. Awesome. They're like, $5.25, please. I'm like, what are you on about? It says $5.
Yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
a different way of living, isn't it?
yeah, but
You've
that's,
been there good like 8, 9 years then now.
yeah. So it's been it'll be 9 years this August. It will be. So it's
Wow. So rewind a little bit then. So when obviously your mum, was like, obviously drinking, taking drugs and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because as parents, you've got to have that balance of keep telling someone not to do something because it gives you curiosity subconsciously, really.
right, exactly.
So when you got into like, that age group, how did you you were falling into that whole drug scene? How did you get yourself out of it?
Well, what happened? This was I should kind of say why it like got worse first. It's because I was running and going out smoking so when I came to Canada, I could either have the choice of waiting for all of my grades from the UK to be transferred into Canadian curriculum, or I could have redone my education. So I decided to redo it all. It's actually way easier than the UK one. And then I was in my graduation year, and I was smoking a lot of dope. I was so yeah, which is like, and it would be like any time of day. It would be like on my lunch break at school, and but I was working a lot too. Though I was actually surprisingly being able to keep up with a full-time job as well as going to high school. I was running a little gym within the town that I was living in. Um, and yeah, I was there for 6 days a week at the time. But the
Yeah.
time that as soon as I finished work, I'd go over to the friend's house and we just smoke. And one day I came home and parents realized I was smoking and they like intervention me, go and take a drug test and so on. And I was shitting my pants straight. I was pooping it. I was and I was high at the time when I came home, so I panicked and I climbed out the window. I did, and I packed my bag and I ran. I did just out of fear. I did, which is like worst thing I've done, but it made me into the man I am today. And then after doing that, my family who actually cared for me at the time were like, we're done with you for a bit, go figure yourself out. And that's kind of how it's always been. My dad was the same when he was younger as well. My grandpa was like, I don't like your attitude. Here's a round the world ticket. I don't want to see you for the next 5 years. And my dad did. He left for 5 years around the world. And I kind of did the same thing, except I was running around the city. And I started bouncing at certain bars. And just from there, when you're in the nightlife kind of scene, as a young man, I was bouncing at 18. I was, because I played rugby most of my life. I did, so I was a bit of a brute. Um, and yeah, one thing led to another. I went from smoking weed all the time to starting selling MDMA to all my friends, and then it just got into
It
from
just
there.
easily spirals, though, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Also,
exactly.
like the culture and the people that you're surrounded and all that kind of thing. It's easy done, isn't it?
Right, and that's what I'm very big on now, accountability and who I surround myself with. Because now, I won't if I clearly show you that you're making a mistake here and you continually make the mistake, I can't
Yeah.
continue myself around that anymore because I know it's not good.
Yeah. What was your like wake up call to get out of that though? If you know what I mean.
Yeah, my wake up call was I was all alone, didn't have my family, I had no job, and I had chronic back pain as well. So I have scoliosis, I do, so I couldn't like hold a job down properly. Um, so I don't know why, but my best idea at the time was like, I'm gonna get a dog. Yeah, I went and bought myself a dog. She is a little pitty Labrador. Barely cost me anything, whereas most dogs do. And I remember crashing up my drugs one day and saw a chunk fly off into the carpet, and I just about had a heart attack myself because I thought my dog was going to get it.
Yeah.
And my dog was only like what 12, 16 weeks at the time. She was. And yeah, that was it. Haven't touched any hard stuff since.
I
I
suppose
did,
it was like that in a way, like having a dog is like having a child, isn't it? 'Cause you're always
yeah,
caring for somebody else, and you've got that responsibility for something else or someone else, or or
yeah,
dog or whatever.
definitely. But yeah, then I stopped doing hard drugs. I did continue smoking weed. I did, and I've actually only recently uh, been able to cut that out of my life. I have, which is I'm feeling fantastic about it. I'm doing really, really well with that, but that's because I'm expecting my son here in the next couple of weeks. So
Yeah, exciting.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But that's kind of yeah. I realized I couldn't let anyone else be hard on me anymore, or expect people to be hard on me. I had to be hard on myself. and
Yeah.
again go on to that accountability stage of myself, and say, yeah,
I
this
think
is,
also you just like grow up a bit, don't you? I think most
yeah,
people, no matter what sort of journey in their life, have like a time in their life when they're younger and they're doing stupid things. But even if it's just alcohol and it's not drugs, don't they? You just have a bit of a wild stage,
right.
and then it's all kind of escalates on the people that you're hanging around with.
Definitely. And I always stayed away from alcohol because my mum was more an alcoholic than she was a drug addict most of the time. And I saw what it did to her, and that scared me, like
Yeah.
living daylights out of me. So I always stayed clear of alcohol. Never been someone to like, oh, just have a casual beer. I couldn't do it, you
Yeah.
know. But yeah, that's kind of where it all went to, and now I'm completely clean. I don't smoke. Well, I might have the odd little vodka with orange juice, but
Yeah.
nothing too much, and I put so much orange juice I can't bloody taste the vodka.
So, like, as well as like accountability, like on reflection, what have you learned from all of that? Do you reckon? What sort of life things have you learned?
um, there's power in sobriety. There's a lot of power in being
Yeah.
able to say like I'm available 24/7, doesn't matter where I am in the world. Because that was one thing that I kept running into, was that it was the one thing stopping me from growing in my business. It was always making me plateau. It'd be like, okay, I feel like I've done for the day. I don't have any more work to do. Okay, I can go get high for a little bit, and
Yeah.
and then literally 10 minutes later, I've got a phone call coming through. That's business,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I can't answer it because I'm not available.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, I'm so I am not. If I do not succeed and hit this 2 comma club, which it's my next aim within the year here, I am admitting failure in my life. I am, and
Yeah.
that's just it.
Good goal. Really good goal to go for.
Yeah.
So,
So,
how did you get into all the digital marketing space?
this goes back to my spinal condition. So I had scoliosis, couldn't hold a job anywhere. I had my dog, I did, and then I had my girlfriend and yeah, she was looking after me, and I was trying to figure out, like, I couldn't hold a job, and I was like, something's got to change. And I knew the digital marketing space was booming, so I started trying to drop ship. I did,
Wow.
which was, yeah, that's what I started doing. So I was spending all my own money building Shopify stores or websites and paying for advertising and so on. I built probably like 15 different brands. I'm trying to get this going. And I've spent like the last of every penny that I had to be able to do this. I even went into like local shops and like bought my own stock and said, "Hey, will you hold this and do like a profit share with me?" And some people did, but then I figured out when I got the money back, I needed that to live. So I didn't have any kind of a sustainable business. So what I started doing, because I got really good at building websites over the time, and did, and because I was working with a part-time job with a delivery company here, me and him just go back and forth a lot on talking about business, and I was like, why am I building websites for you and me? Like, why am I doing this? Why don't I just go to other businesses that have really crappy websites and say, hey, I'll build your website for you, and I don't want any money at the start. I just want to build my portfolio. And I did that enough to build my portfolio that now I have like a successful website design business here in Saskatoon. And yeah, one
It's
thing
really
led to,
interesting because I did something similar. I learned loads about Facebook, and then obviously it's gone into Instagram. But back in the days when it was like the fan page, before like all the algorithm change, now you're just going to do pure advertising. But it's like you always like trying to learn more, but then when you stop and think, who is it that knows nothing? So
right.
I was like helping restaurant owners, like a like personal trainer. Um, there was a chiropractor as well, talking about backs and stuff. And it's just, even though I was thinking that I wasn't really an expert at the time, it was when I first started getting into sort of the online world. I thought, how can I generate more cash flow? Do you know what I mean?
Right, exactly. And that's kind of where I was at too. I was figuring out, like, I was doing social media, I was doing paid advertising, websites, every field of it. And then I came across a quote one day. I can't remember who said it, but the man that chases two rabbits catches none of them. So I just like, I focused on one thing. I was like, websites, because I know I don't have to pay for it, and then so on. And I just ran with it, and it built. So.
So it's like website. So you've got a business around building websites now for. Is it anyone, or have you got a particular niche that you focus on?
Yeah, it's just small business owners. So the whole reason I got into website design is because I saw a gap in the market where there was um if you wanted a good website, you'd have to go and pay anywhere up from $6,000 to $20,000 for a decent website. And as a small business owner, when you're barely scraping by already, like that's not doable at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
So my whole idea was to help out the little guys, and actually I tutor them how to manage their own website, so then they don't have to continually buy it. But yeah, exactly. But with that business model, it's not very sustainable because you teach them everything and then they're like, okay, see you later. I don't need to pay you anymore. Right. So, yeah, I kept doing that, built a good enough name for myself. And actually, I was driving down the street over by my house here, going to the car wash, and this yellow Ford Mustang drove up right next to me, had a big sign along the side. It said "No Frills," and I was like, "That's the owner of that company, which is No Frills is a grocery store over here."
Yeah, I've heard of
Yeah,
it. Wow.
yeah. So I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna follow him," and he actually happened to be going where I was going, anyways, which is quite handy. And I went there and talked to him. I did, and said, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. Do you need any help? I was wondering if you had any avenues for me to network and so on." And that was the only time I've ever spoke to him ever. So Rob, if you hear this, thank you, mate. You've changed my life. But yeah, he put me in contact with my current business partner, Brandon. He did, and we started off very slowly because he's guy's a multi-millionaire already, owns multiple real estate buildings around Canada and has multiple businesses around Canada and has his foot in many different ponds, I would say. But yeah, I started building his websites for him, and then he gave me the opportunity to be a digital marketing specialist at his company. Um,
That's cool.
yeah, so now that's primarily what I'm doing because it's a reoccurring revenue. For me, I don't, yeah, it's a lot more sustainable and scalable for myself. And starting a new family, that's what I need.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. That's
yeah,
really cool though, because really you've like from because that's how sometimes I look back on my journey, like from something bad. Like I feel like I've found the meaning in suffering, really. That
right,
because I'm now trying to like help other people by doing the coaching part of it. And a lot of women tend to quite, feel like I don't know. They just get kind of. I think it just sort of inspires them to think, God, if she's done it with all that crap that she had on, then there's no excuse for me to not build, an Amazon business or whatever. But I think when you've obviously like you were at the rock bottom, you got your dog, who became your lovable friend, man's best friend, as we call it.
right.
And then that kind of gave you that wake up a little bit. But plus, in a way, like your back injury has given you that fuel to be able to, go and grab something and just take it further and further. And are you pretty much self-taught, or have you
Yeah,
so
completely self-taught, and actually any course I've ever bought has not really done me any good, to be honest, but given me a tax write-off, if anything. um, but yeah, pretty much sat there on YouTube for hours and hours and just picked and played, failed and succeeded and failed and learned this and so on, and reevaluated myself and what I was doing as a business. And then um, find as well, when you're a business owner, you're always trying to look for the next step and like what is going to take you to that point. And I really felt like I plateaued at probably about a year or so ago. I did. It was right before all of this COVID stuff started.
Yeah.
And I was sitting down one night. It's like, okay, I'm just gonna relax with the missus. I'm gonna chill out. I'm like, honey, do you want to watch Kung Fu Panda tonight? Just watch all of them. We sat down and we watched Kung Fu Panda, and there's a part in the movie. So Disney's very famous for doing this, where they have like hidden messages in their
Yeah.
movies, right? And I remember like, 'cause I was so stressed out about why can't I get my business to the next level? Like, what am I doing wrong? And trying to figure out this process and be super analytic about everything. And that's one thing as a business owner, I find that we're perfectionists and we always want it to be perfect. And there's a point in the movie when Poe, the panda, gets the dragon scroll and his dad goes, I want to tell you the secret ingredient to my secret ingredient noodle soup. And he says, the secret ingredient is nothing. And it just slapped me in the face so hard. And I was like, wow, all I got to do is just keep trying, keep going forward. And
Yeah.
there's no secret ingredient for me
I
to
think there's so
push
many
myself.
people online that think that like, I mean, I remember feeling that. I'm not saying that, oh, I never thought that, but I think you just think there's this secret formula somewhere,
Exactly.
when actually it's just about taking action, isn't it? And just keep repeating it and
Yeah,
getting better at what you're doing.
exactly.
And
Persistence is key,
yeah, and
and
being like not afraid to ask or be cheeky, and just asking. I think sometimes we're too polite, aren't we, with things, and
right,
we're expecting it to kind of land on our lap
for
when you've actually
sure.
got to be resilient to any kind of mistake. There's always a solution in the end, uh,
Right.
but kind of like having that, just having that attitude to go out and get it, really.
Right, and you were saying about not being afraid, and like I sometimes I find people are like, yeah, don't be scared, don't be scared, and it's like, no, be scared because that's going to be what pushes you forward, but have the courage to be able to do it, you
Yeah,
know, because courage is like you're scared, but you know that's going to be what pushes you. Like now I'm successful and so on, I'm starting to get into like video ads and automating my system and so on. And it's like I'm in front of the camera a lot now, and I actually hate being in front of the camera. I do. It's never been something that I've enjoyed, even though I've done modeling in my past days and everything. I did it because I knew it was going to get me to the next step, not
yeah.
because I wanted to do it, and it's just having that bite your tongue, get through it, and you'll be all right. And I
Also,
think,
it's like when you're comfortable, you don't push yourself. But when
right,
I actually think when you make yourself uncomfortable, you're growing, aren't you, and going to that next level. So
definitely,
it's like when I
yeah,
first started doing webinars, I was like, I'm like dreading it. Now it's just like I'm turning up like a minute before it goes live and I'm just delivering, like before it'd be like 15, 20 minutes, like planning everything, where's all the buttons and everything, just getting myself all ready and kind of hyped
yeah,
up. Whereas
I,
now, like, go from
yeah,
one to the next. And I'm like,
yeah, it's
so
good. Like I was actually in a clubhouse room when I first got onto Clubhouse, and there was a gentleman on there talking about how um, about being comfortable, but the way to make yourself do things and to be able to go ahead is to create chaos in your life. Is to be able to say, okay, like, and I did this for myself too. Like you were just saying about webinars. I was doing the ClickFunnels training, the perfect webinar, not too long ago, and Russell Brunson goes, yeah, do a webinar every week for 52 weeks and you'll be ready. And this was the week before Christmas, and I'm thinking, oh, when can I fit a webinar in this week? And it was like, oh, the only time I can do it is in the next 2 days. I had no slides, I had no presentation. I knew what I wanted to talk about, but I had no idea. And I actually ended up having like 10 people from across the world show up to it. And I was just like, okay, this is what I'm talking about. But it made me figure out what I
yeah,
was doing,
exactly.
you
It can.
know?
It is. It's like throwing yourself in the deep end a bit, and it's kind
Right.
of important to do. I don't know, it's just like important to do that, to push ourselves. And probably you feel like this with like your history of all the challenges that you've gone through and all the family stuff, that you faced fear in a personal way, that it kind of, you don't mind pushing yourself in a work way, because it's like, you know, that there's things that are a lot worse than pushing yourself on a business level. Whereas I think people who've had like these so-called, I don't believe anyone's had a perfect life, but people who've not really had that much go on, they get really worked up over things like that.
Yeah.
I was noticing it recently, like my car broke down, and like years and years ago, it'd been really like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Whereas I was like, boys, we got out of the car, rang like AA to come and get me. And it was because I've not been driving much because of the lockdown. I'd been on the phone outside their school. I got there early. I'd been on the phone for like nearly 45 minutes, yapping away to someone using all with the heater on. Do you know what I mean? Using
Yeah.
the heater. And by the time I rung the AA, and then I said to the boys, "Come on!" And we just got out, went and got some food, and they were like, "Oh my God, what can we do about the car?" I was like, "It's a car. We could even walk home from here. Let's just go get some food. By the time we come back, the AA guy will be here," which was. And then ironically, the car started. I was really embarrassed because it wouldn't start for like 10 minutes. I was trying, but obviously it'd recharge itself. It's not like a really old car.
Oh.
I was then really embarrassed, like this stupid, dumb woman that had broken down. But years ago, I'd have been like, oh my God, it would have been a real drama. And I was just like, come on. I said, look, you've ended up getting treats out of me because of this whole drama. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But we ended up like having a bit of fun with it. And I don't think it's just how you see stuff when you've had other kind of more heartache or more traumatic things in your life than these everyday things. And like the whole COVID situation doesn't really bother me. It's sometimes a bit inconvenient, but generally I work from home, and you probably feel the same. It's like some
Yeah.
people are really not handling it right. You know, like
Oh, trust me, I know for sure. There's a lot of people around me that are.
and I understand it. Like I
It's
sympathise.
fear.
Yeah, it is. It's fear. It's the whole fear thing. Whereas I'm like really not fearing it, and I keep thinking, why am I not? But I think it's just I've had other life experiences which have been high, and so actually I'm grateful for all those experiences, because now I handle stuff so much better.
Right.
And you probably feel the same, really.
Definitely, and like kind of going back to where you were saying like your car broke down and so on. The way I think about those situations is like your car could have been fine, and you could have carried on, but you might have been hit by a lorry
Yeah,
10 minutes later, but you're not realized that that black tire or whatever it was actually saved your life, you know. So
yeah,
I always like see, and it's the same thing with like how all the stuff I've been through in my life, for like the adversity with my mum and like moving around my whole life, and having to make new friends and so on. It taught me how to network with people, how to be good at sales and actually sell myself and so on, and be able to go through adversity. um, there's blessings and curses, and I find people don't really look at that way. It's always woe is me,
yeah,
is and
exactly.
yeah, and that's the kind of thing I don't deal well with, because I'll slap it in your face and I'll be like, go on, it's your choice, your decisions, you made it, you know, your vibrations brought this, you know. It's at the
Exactly.
end of the day, that's where it goes. But yeah.
I think some people are victims, aren't they? And I've never been a victim for whatever. I've always kind of like, how am I going to get through this? Well, don't get me wrong, I've had moments of like, real down times, but I've probably not really. I've shared it with a couple of people close to me, but I've always looked at, right, Anna, like, get out of this. Like, what are you going to do? Even if it's just like, get out of the house and get some fresh air, or just, just try and force myself to not be a lazy cow, like lounge around if I'm feeling like really down. Those days are gone now, but you kind of reflect back on that, and then you sort of how valuable life is, and you're just like, there's no point wasting time being down. Just find a solution, move on, and grab life with both hands, really.
Well, yeah, I definitely see that. Life's very, very short. Like my dad passed back in on November 8th of 2020. He did. So it's just been over it's like 2 months and a week
Yeah,
today. It is. So it's been, and like I said, he served 22 years, but he was only 52. He was, and he
Wow.
died of brain cancer. He did,
So
which is
did he get to see you sort of like turn your life around? He must have done.
honestly, uh, not really, to be
Right.
honest. It's like he did a little bit,
But
right
he knew
towards.
that you were sorted, really.
Yeah, he knew I was there, but it was like I didn't have quite the best relationship with the rest of my family, and my little sister as well. She's 9 years old now. She is, but she was the thing that really drove me at the start. She was really kept me going because I wanted to be there for her when she grew up and be able to protect her and so on. So like I really tried for that. But my dad probably saw me in mm, like my prime state for probably about 3 months, and then he got diagnosed. He did,
Right.
which it, it's kind of like with the way his brain cancer was, it was like Alzheimer's and dementia. So he like just started
Ah,
forgetting
yeah.
who I was, and I happened to look like his best friend from his childhood, just tall and bold.
Yeah.
So he started calling me his friend and so on. And yeah, he did say he was proud of me at the end, which was really nice. And
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And at least
yeah,
you did get to see. I know, obviously, it was a short time, and it's so sad for things like that. But I
mm,
suppose it's like from what you said, he sounded like someone who was a real action taker
right.
and grafter, and kind of like, I suppose it's like looking at what are the learnings as well from it all, isn't it? But it still must be so raw. You got to take time to like grieve from it, and you're becoming a dad yourself, so
Right, and that's the thing as well, right? Like he got diagnosed on May 6th. He did. His birthday's on May 5th. It is. So he was literally just 52. And then me and my missus found out we were pregnant on June 6th. So literally a month later. And
yeah,
my dad was given 14 months to live. He was. So it was like race against time almost, like what's going to happen first? Is my boy going to get here, or is my dad going to die?
yeah,
And it was like I was losing a dad and becoming a dad at the same time. And it was like, but
yeah,
I tell you what, now I hear his voice more than I ever did before. I hear his opinions on me more than ever,
yeah,
because it's like whenever I do something, I'm just like I think about what he would be thinking of it and so on. So yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, like I said, it's a blessing and a curse, and it really like gave me the kick up the arse that I needed. Um, and like, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
really
yeah.
changed my life for sure, definitely, and I'm well stronger for it now. But still, again, it's raw, but
It must be
I'm not,
because it's only a few months, and also
yeah,
becoming a new dad on the horizon as well. It's like, yeah, I've had that before with when someone's like passing away and there's a newborn as well. It's surreal, really, isn't it?
yeah, it's
But
like you don't,
I kind of always believe that, like when people pass, there's always still that guidance there. Um, and at least he got to see you sort of turn your life around. I know, obviously, it was for a shorter time, uh,
right,
but you got that fuel now to kind of do him proud and be,
yeah.
be that dad that you can be the best of, and just grab life, really.
Yeah, exactly. It's so I always, when I was going through it, and everyone's like, "Oh, how are you doing? Are you okay?" And just like focusing on all the bad, and my response always was, "I've got life on the way. I can't be focusing on life ending." My dad would be telling me the same thing, and if he was here, he'd be giving me a slap around the head if I was crying about it. And I know, so. But I saw something from a friend of mine today. He posted this. Is like when grapes are crushed, must be crushed to make wine. Diamonds are formed under pressure, and oils must be pressed to release their oil, and seeds must be in darkness to grow. And if you
Yeah,
ever feel like you're being crushed or under pressure or you're in darkness, just know that you're in a powerful place of transformation, and you need to just trust, so. And I was never a big firm believer in God my whole life, but now I'm a bit more, and I truly believe that God does not, whatever you want to call it, higher power, God, anything.
I definitely believe there's something in the universe, because things have happened. I keep having this thing with numbers at the moment. I keep seeing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And the other day when I was on the Clubhouse app, I think it was, I suddenly thought, what time is it? And it was 3:33 again. I was like, and then when I've had to go and get the boys from school, I'm running late and I'm just about to go, and it's like 3:33. I'm just like, it keeps pulling out of me,
Mine does that too.
Weird things like that.
Yeah.
I think it's meant to be, and it's telling me something. And I've looked it up. It's something like the guidance is like basically like I'm on the right track to, for success type of thing.
Right. There's lots of different ones, and like I actually I used to be really into that new age stuff, but I found that a lot of if you're too far into the new age things, it's like, oh, I can think myself into success, It's like, no, you can't. You got to do the bloody work. You ain't going to sit there and play with your Torah cards and figure out your future real quick. You actually got to go do something about it, not sit there and burn sage all day, It's like, actually go ahead and but for me,
I think sometimes there's synergy there, isn't it? There's synergy, and there is kind of like manifestation, but some people manifesting and they're not prepared to do the work. You've still got to do the work and the graft.
They make it their identity, and that's it. It's like, oh, I can just like feel my power, and that's again something that just gets me going. But I did used to do cards and be able to read understand my future, but I'd always just take it. I would only do it at points when I was finding that I was in that darkness, or I was feeling under pressure and things like that. And I've had one, and this was actually, I keep this one, and it's funny because my dog ate all of the cards except this one.
See, it's meant to be.
But it's funny because this is one of the cards that helped me figure out that I need to focus on one thing, because I heard that quote, the man that chases two rabbits catches none, right? And then this card actually means make a decision. It does, and I've always kept it, and I've always it talks to me when I need it.
Unless the dog's hungry again.
Yeah, no, I put it, I'm nice and high up now. But it's interesting how your life goes ahead and does lay these things out for you, and whether it be I was speaking to I'm sponsoring this gentleman called Leo Namen, and he is he's a Latino man living in Canada. He's a Canadian citizen now. Yeah, and he had a heart attack back in 2019. He did. And he's been a mountaineer his whole life, and he's never smoked, never drank anything. And now he's planning on summiting Mount Everest this April, actually. So that's going to be one thing. I've been helping him with his marketing and actually helping him get more donations and so on in that regard. But we had a really long meeting the other day, probably about 3 hours long, and then me and him sat down for another hour. We did, and just shot the shit. He did, and he told me a story about when he had his heart attack, and I've been a heavy smoker since I was like 12. And I've just smoked and smoked and smoked as much as, and over the last 3 years, I've been trying to vape, but I found that's actually way worse, because I can do it I can do it anywhere. I can sit right here and chuff on my vape all day, whereas a cigarette, I actually have to go outside. Well, they don't have to, but I chose to, because I don't want to smell like a ashtray, right? But he told me a story about how he was tied up in his bed with wires coming out of him left and right, and he looked over at the door and it was open about this much, and he saw his wife with her hands over the face, crying her eyes out, And he's like, never felt a feeling like that before. And I remember being on the other side of the door, looking at my dad the exact same way I did. And I've got my boy, he's going to be here in a couple of weeks. And I've got my wife, I'm getting married hopefully this year if this COVID crap just slows down a bit.
My friend's wedding has just been cancelled. All weddings are off at the moment.
Yeah, I'm not having a Zoom wedding.
That's a good have a Zoom wedding.
Yeah, but yeah, I just thought,
I think though, like having a child, this is what it did for me, and I think I've seen it happen to other people. It does give you that fuel. Then it's like I said to you the other day on Instagram. It's like I can't describe it in words, but you know, like you've seen other babies, you've seen other children, but when you have your own, it's like this is part of me, and
right.
it's a weird like connection that you can't really explain, and just quite like an overwhelming emotional time, really. But it's a really, really good feeling. You know, like most people go, "Oh, when you're having kids, oh, your life's over now." All the negative.
Yeah, I hear that all the time.
But it's not. It's like one of the most amazing experiences. Yeah, at the beginning, you know. To be honest, I actually like them when they're babies. when they're walking around and mouthing off, that's when they start getting a bit out of control.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's I just think it's an amazing experience, and it's weird, isn't it? Like one door's closed for your dad, and then another one's opening, and this is you are going to be the leader now to this son of yours to guide him in of all your life experiences. How you know, we all make mistakes. I make mistakes as a mum, but one of the things that I've been doing recently is going, look, mum was wrong with that. I hold my hands up. I shouldn't have done that because of da. And I'm noticing that's quite a good little. I don't know where that came from. I don't know where I learned that from.
Accountability.
It goes down really well. Yeah, it is accountability, actually, isn't it? I didn't even know what it was in my head. It's just, you know, when you do something, like say in the morning, like the school run, and I'm getting stressed. I'm going to be late. And I'm like, I feel like I'm like screaming, you know, and never would do that normally, but I'm all like, come on. And then I'm like, you know what, mum shouldn't have done that because I sounded like a ridiculous scream. And Ruben will always say to me, yeah, you did a bit.
Yeah, I tell you what, my dad used to do. If I missed the bus, like he'd always be ready in the night before, have his shoes polished. They'd make us iron our polo shirts all the time, our trousers, and like dad, because dad's army, right? And he's like, you gotta look smart, and that's just how it is. But if you missed the bus, my school was about probably about a 20-minute drive away, and we lived right in the little village. There was pretty much two ways to go. You could either go the back road or you could go the main road, and that was it. You missed the bus, you better jump on your bike and get going, you know. And that was just it. It was like, you got to be accountable to what it is. And
I think by holding your hands up and saying, you know what, I did that wrong, I suppose it's teaching them as well.
Yeah.
For them to admit it, do you know what I mean? Because they're always in denial when there's something's gone wrong. They're always looking a bit dodgy. Who's broken this? I don't know. Who?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's fun. Fatherhood, motherhood, I think it's fun. And you've got an exciting future ahead of you with your work and everything. So it's been really inspiring to interview you because you've shown, you know, you've had like, I suppose, like challenges and difficult journeys ahead, and it in the past, and you know, you've got it, just like how you've managed to just be resilient to it all, really. And I'm sure you've had like, you know, hard times in between, but you know, you're one of those people that are not a victim. You're a survivor and a thriver, aren't you, really? And
yeah, I appreciate that, Anna. Thank you. It's nice to hear.
And so I always ask everybody on this interview, what does freedom mean to you? So what does freedom mean to you, Brereton?
Freedom to me is being able to choose how I manage my time and how I manage my attention.
Yeah.
That to me is freedom, because I've worked in buildings and big corporate companies before, and I'm always building someone else's up, and I'm breaking my back to build someone else's throne, you know. And
exactly.
yeah, I like to follow what Gary Vee says you got to eat a shit sandwich to taste some caviar, and that's just how it goes. I'd rather just be in a rut for a little while and pull myself out and go that
Well, you
way.
know that if you're grafting, it's for you, don't you? So if you know you're putting in
Right.
extra hours, it's for you. Whereas
Exactly.
when it's for someone else, it's like you say, you're building someone else's dream, aren't you? So
Right. Exactly. But yeah, that's freedom to me, is being able to choose what I do when I do it and how I manage it, and be able to be with my family when I choose to be.
yeah,
Yeah.
brilliant. Great
Alrighty.
stuff. So if people, do you do websites for people all over the world?
Yes, I do actually. And then we do digital marketing, simplify how you manage your business, whether it be social media, your SEO, your listing solutions. If you need content creation, or you just need a better tool to be able to manage your business, we give you that too, and watch you hold your hand through the situation as well. But I'm
Brilliant.
kind of, yeah, but websites, yeah, we still do websites for everyone.
How would, if people were listening to you and thinking, God, this guy is inspiring on his journey, how he's built this from nothing and he's gone through all this to hell and back on the way. I really want him to do some work for me. How are they going to get a hold of you? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
So you can actually go over to my website, simplybettermarketing.ca. Make sure it's the .ca, and then there's a spot where you can actually book a free online consultation with me, and I'll actually give your business a complete audit to be able to show you exactly where you're losing customers online. Because with 2020, that's where everyone's customers are coming from nowadays, because you're all stuck in quarantine and so on, right?
Yeah.
So it's primarily where we're focusing at. Or you can hit me up on Instagram at Brereton Clarke. That's Brereton, and then Clarke, Clark, and an E at the end. Okay.
So
Just
what
shoot
we'll
me up.
do is we'll put all the links in the show notes. If you're listening to it on iTunes, it'll be on the show notes. If you're listening to it on YouTube, it'll be in the notes under the video. I don't know what that's called, in the comments or whatever. And we'll put it all in there. So send them across. So if you want to start 2021 with a better outlook on what you're doing with your marketing, your business, then take up Brereton's deal and book a call with him and get him to have a look at where you're at and how you can improve for this year.
For sure. And it's not even like, if you want to work with me, I don't mind. I really don't mind. At the end of the day, all I want to do is help those people who need the help grow. So if you want a free online consultation, and the only thing it takes up is my time at the end of the day, so I'm more than happy to give it. But I'll leave it as that.
Yeah, brilliant. Great stuff. Well, really big thanks for giving us your time. It's not going to be long. It's only is it a couple of weeks that your girlfriend or wife's due, your partner anyway is due. So
yeah.
till fatherhood hits you. So maybe we'll get you back in a year and see how your first year of fatherhood's been.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. It should be any day now. She got dated for 38 weeks yesterday, so it could be at any point right now. I'm kind of walking on eggshells, but I'll leave it as that.
Well, enjoy it all. It's
Awesome.
an exciting time, and thanks ever so much for your time. And great to get to know you better as well. And I'll see you, I'm sure, hanging around the clubhouse rooms.
For sure, definitely will do. Alrighty, thanks, Anna. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, thank you for listening. Hope you had a blast. Here to elevate your life. It's the Freedom Podcast. Love, money, mine. Love, money, mine. Wanna see you all win. Wanna see you all shine. Just make sure that you subscribe. Bringing good vibes. Join the Facebook group. Now it's time to change your life. Hope you come back. Right now is the chance. This is an experience. It's the Freedom Podcast. Hey.